2 years ago, on the Shabbat right before Thanksgiving, we found out that Diane had tested positive for COVID. This was before we had vaccines, before Paxlovid, before home tests were readily available. The reason we were tested was that I was going to officiate at a wedding on Sunday before Thanksgiving, and the families naturally wanted to know that everyone attending the wedding was going to be testing negative. I did test negative, so I officiated at the wedding. It was outdoors, everyone was wearing face masks, and it was really wonderful to celebrate this special occasion in the midst of a pandemic. But Diane couldn't attend. At home, we stayed in separate rooms of the house, and for Thanksgiving, we ate in separate rooms. Not exactly the big family get-together that most of us are used to having. Last year, we had Thanksgiving with some friends, which was really very nice. This year, unbelievably, Diane tested positive again for COVID this past Saturday morning, right before Thanksgiving. I tested negative again. And by a really strange coincidence, I was once again honored to be asked to officiate at a wedding on the Sunday before Thanksgiving, which, by the way, was a very lovely occasion to celebrate. But Diane, once again, wasn't able to come. And once again, last night, we ate Thanksgiving dinner in separate rooms of our house. In fact, as I thought about it, Thanksgiving is getting to look a lot like Groundhog's Day. But this is Thanksgiving weekend, so I don't want to make this story into a glass half-empty melodrama. In fact, Diane and I have a great deal to be thankful for. First of all, 2 years ago, Diane was completely symptom-free. She had tested positive but had no symptoms. This time, she only had mild symptoms. We were all vaccinated and boosted, and as soon as Diane had tested positive, she got a prescription for Paxlovid, which is a very effective therapeutic drug, by the way, and she's doing very well. We know dozens of people who have had very severe cases of COVID, dozens who spent days or weeks in hospitals, and even members who died from COVID or from complications from the disease. So we really have nothing to complain about. We were mildly inconvenienced for a couple of weeks. Our love and our compassion goes out to those who truly suffered. We count our blessings, that we are both employed in things that we love doing. We have a house with a roof over our heads, which was really helpful when it rained outside yesterday. We were able to have a delicious meal with all the traditional Thanksgiving dishes, even though we were in separate rooms. We have the convenience of 21st century technology, including indoor plumbing, my all-time favorite. Don't take that for granted. And electricity that keeps us warm when it's cool outside or cold when it's hot outside, as well as computers and an internet that can keep us connected to the world. I Zoomed last night with my brother and sister-in-law who live in Los Angeles. And really very important to Diane and me, we have this wonderful and supportive community at Beth Yeshurun. A couple of days ago, The Atlantic sent a newsletter to subscribers in advance of Thanksgiving. It was written by an associate editor, Isabel Fatal, and it included an interview she had with an Afghani journalist, a refugee named Bushra Siddiqui, who had fled Afghanistan in August of last year. Siddiqui is now 23 years old and living in Washington, D.C. Siddiqui described her first Thanksgiving in the United States a year ago. Last Thanksgiving, my first Thanksgiving, I was in a refugee camp in Indiana. One of our Afghan friends had an American friend, and that American friend gave him a big cooked turkey with stuffing and all the side dishes. He brought the turkey to the room we were living in. We asked what it was, and he told us about this big American holiday. There were maybe 25 people in that room. We all sat together and ate turkey and the stuffing and all the fixings. So what does Siddiqui think about this holiday now? Among all the American holidays, she wrote, I've liked Thanksgiving the best. It doesn't matter what you are or who you all sit at one table praying for what you're thankful for, We all do this in different religions, but Thanksgiving gives it a name and a day to do that. I feel blessed sitting around with different people praying for what you have. So what is she thankful for this year? I have a lot more to be thankful than last year. First, I'm thankful for being alive since leaving Afghanistan and leaving the war. The second thing is being thankful for having part of my family in the United States, safe and alive, working as a journalist again. In general, I can say I'm thankful for having second chance of building a life. After leaving my country, I have the chance to experience a lot of seconds: a new job, new apartment, and a new career. So seeing this country as a new immigrant, what about America do you think we take for granted? She wrote, I wish I had the opportunity to show Americans how life is in other countries. In my country, most families go to sleep hungry. If you want to start to be thankful, start with the food on the table. And then there's education. The U.S. has the highest ranking universities in the world. You can be anything you want. Women have a lot of rights here. We don't have rights in the freedoms in Afghanistan. Even just transportation. Americans have metros, bicycles, scooters, cars, trains, trucks. You can't find all this in Afghanistan. Freedom of speech, freedom of religion, freedom of ethnicities. These are big things Americans should be thankful for. My sister is a junior in an American school. She's always telling me about the opportunities these American kids have in their schools. If we could bring these opportunities to Afghani schools, they would use them very well. They don't even have a chair and table to sit on during class. And finally, here's her advice for us. I find Americans very kind and giving people. They're doing whatever they can. Ever since I arrived, a lot of Americans have been trying to help me to build a life here, which I'm grateful for. Keep doing that. You're going to be a great nation if you have the sense of giving and of helping others. One other thing Americans can do is to pay attention to other countries, especially at Thanksgiving. Pay attention to poor countries, Middle Eastern countries, countries that are in dire need. When I read this interview, I felt that I had to share it with you this evening. There's so much hatred and anger out there, people seeing everything in black and white, good or evil, prejudice or tribalism. Hearing these thoughts from a new immigrant reminds us of the precious nature of our country, with all of its flaws. She reminds us to be grateful for all that we have, and she calls upon us to continue to live up to our higher aspirations of who we want to be as a nation. She also reminds us of something that is also a very important Jewish value. In the midst of giving thanks for all the blessings in our lives, we should also respond with kindness and generosity to others. As you know, in the Jewish tradition, we're especially concerned with what we do in the world, more so than what we think or believe. So it's good to have an attitude of gratitude, as they say, but we must also take action on our feelings of thankfulness. We should give back to our society and to those in need to truly demonstrate how grateful we are for what we have. So it's about this time of year when Diane and I review our charitable donations. We find it helpful to have an annual review to make sure we're giving about 10% of our income to charitable organizations. And why not make it part of your Thanksgiving experience? At this time of year in particular, I think it's most appropriate to give to the organizations that provide for truly poor members of our society, homeless people, folks who don't have money to put food on the table, let alone prepare for a Thanksgiving feast. Organizations like homeless shelters, the Food Bank, Meals on Wheels, and similar organizations. And for Jewish people, we can and we should also contribute to Jewish institutions, the Jewish Federation, Jewish Family Services, 7 Acres, and others. Because if we Jews do not support our own institutions, no one else will. We can't ask, after all, Christians, Muslims, or Buddhists to donate to our community's welfare organizations. And it's our organizations that serve primarily, though not exclusively, the members of our community who desperately need help. And then there is the Jewish community in Uganda. Yes, there are Jews in Uganda. I posted on my Facebook page a GoFundMe for that community that is right now struggling with floods and famine. At Beth Yeshurun, we're also donating to them dozens of our used prayer books. Their rabbi asked if we could do that, and we, of course, said, sure. But wherever you decide to donate your time, your effort, your resources, let's all take a few moments, if we didn't last night already, and make a list of all the things that we are grateful and thankful for. And then let's make another list of things we plan to do to help those in need. Giving back is also something that we can be thankful for, thankful that we're able to give back to others. In this way, we will have both thanks and giving on this holiday season. Shabbat Shalom.